Bella Salon and Day Spa, located at 41 West Main Street in Northeast Pennsylvania, proudly supports Chautauqua Sunrise and its volunteers. More information at bellasalonanddayspa.net. Westfield Memorial Hospital provides high-quality health care to residents of Western New York, offering patients the most sophisticated medical advancements while keeping the ease and familiarity of a community hospital. Support for Chautauqua Sunrise has been provided by WRFA 107.9 FM, Jamestown's public radio station, streaming online 24/7 at WRFALP.com. Low power to the people. Funding is provided by a grant from New York State Senator Catherine M. Young, representing Western New York's 57th District, with a local office in Olean. Chautauqua Sunrise is made possible by a grant from Fredonia Place, a continuing care retirement community providing dignity in a modern luxury environment. Meter's Restaurant, a family tradition for over 50 years in downtown Ripley, is a proud supporter of Chautauqua Sunrise. Meter's provides all-day dining, banquet services, and custom catering, specializing in pie. From the Access Channel 5 studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Channel 5. Continuing the traditions of Senior Report, we are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week, countywide, from 9 to 10 a.m. Join us by calling in live, emailing us, or checking out our social media. And now, from the Channel 5 studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday to all of you. I'm Doc Hamels, and you're watching Chautauqua Sunrise. Also want to say good afternoon to all our listeners in Jamestown on WRFA 107.9, low power to the people. So glad that all of you could join us here today. The one thing I want to point out very quickly is that today is a pre-recorded show. Yours truly and my wife and friends, as you're now watching this, we're probably getting up somewhere in Vancouver, Canada, and getting ready to board our plane to come back home. And we will have spent the preceding week, up in the Canadian Rocky Mountains, and I hope to have some really cool pictures for you when I return in May. Okay, so you can't call in today. Hold your calls till the next show if you need to. But always remember, if you do have any announcements, anything you want to share, you could always send it to us here at the station, and we have various emails and Facebook accounts that have just popped up. And for those that are listening, you can always just go to our facebook.com / Chautauqua Sunrise, and you can contact us there at any point in time. All right, glad to share your announcements and so forth. So anyways, don't give us a call today. Give us a call next week if you like. Today's a very, very special show. Every week's a special show, but this is like double very special. This is our 200th show. Now, many of you might say, what's the big deal? Well, 200 shows is a lot of TV production for us all here at Access 5, and we're so very proud of what we do. And we hope that the shows that we bring you every week are of interest to you. And I know I've talked to many of you via email or through person-to-person, Facebook, wherever. And I know that what we do appeals to you and is important to you. And many folks are using us as their media outlet to express things and to share things. And we're happy to do that for you. So 200 shows. And I was thinking back on our 100th show, which doesn't seem that long ago. I had my dad on the show before he passed away, and that was a very special show. And today is a 200 show, and I have a special guest who's going to be not with me in the studio. So we're going to use our technology, and my guest is going to be calling in here in a little bit after I get all our announcements and things in place. But 200 shows is been a lot of fun, and we hope to do another 200 and another 200 after that. But I think when you hit a hallmark of 200 shows, that certain things need to take place, certain protocols. So the first thing I need to do is to thank all the people that are involved helping produce Chautauqua Sunrise. So I want to do some thanks right now. Many of you may or may not know who Chuck Kelsey is. He's our station manager. He's the godfather, one of the godfathers of Access 5 here. And without his vision, without his support, and constant figuring and fiddling with the equipment here, I call it fiddling, but you know what I mean, the technology behind it all, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing every week. So Chuck, thank you very much. Moving right down the line, in no particular order, is Chris Burt. He's our program director. People say, well, what does Chris do? He gets me all our announcements in order. He does a lot of the behind-the-scenes production and things like that. Almost everything that you saw in the beginning of this show, Chris produced and put together for us. And so, Chris, thank you for all your help. Jeff Zook is our engineer. Jeff does all the sound, and he does all the flipping of the cameras as we're moving in and out of things here. And Jeff, thank you. You make my job so easy to do because you're always on top of what we do here. Moving right along, Justin Burt, another Burt here. He's our camera tech. He is also my concierge. When we have guests here, as soon as they come walking through the door, he greets them, gets some coffee, points out where everything is, and makes them feel very welcome, right? And he sort of does the housekeeping here as well. So Justin, thank you. Randy Burt, who was behind the camera a lot, he does a lot of behind the scenes. He helps me get ready for every show, and then we do a lot of work like when we're on location and things like that, but he does a lot of our photos here and things like that. So Randy, thank you. And finally, Emerald Weish, who's our newest camera tech. She's been here with us a few months now, and she's over on this side of the scene. She's giggling right now. I can never see her. She's always hidden behind the monitor and the camera, so she's real tiny and she's behind there, but she's helping us.
Even though I'm short, it doesn't mean you need to call me tiny.
Oh, not tiny, short. All right, she's diminutive. Anyways, we have fun here, and Emerald's been a wonderful addition to our crew here, and so thank you, Emerald, for getting up on a Saturday morning when you could be sleeping in, because I was a teenager once, some time ago, and teenagers like to sleep in anyways, but that's great stuff. I have a few announcements in a minute, but I do want to remind you that the mission of Chautauqua Sunrise is pretty simple. It's to bring to you every single week stuff about Chautauqua County and the good stuff, as they sometimes say on CNN. I'm not trying to steal their line, but it's the good stuff. And sometimes we talk about the tough stuff, but a lot of times when we talk about tough things here in Chautauqua County, we talk about the things that help make the tough situations better, and so on. So right now I want to get into some announcements, and then I'll be kind of awaiting my guest to call in, and we're going to go from there. So let's see what we got here for today's announcements. All right, let's go to Jamestown. And, oh no, I take that back. Hang on. We're not going to Jamestown. We're going to Westfield. Okay, this is slide 17, Jeff. Laugh in the Dark. Lakeshore Center for the Arts is looking for performers, actors, singers, impersonators, and so forth to take place in an adult comedy extravaganza called Laugh in the Dark that will be performed later on in the spring of this year. Comedy scenes, music, poetry, etc. will be performed in the show, and they're looking for men and women from ages 18 on up with no top age, and this will be adult material. This is Rick Mascaro's words now. He says he doesn't think it's naughty, but it Well, he said naughty probably would be it, but not filthy or outlandish. Okay, you're not going to be embarrassed. It'll be kind of like just poking fun at things and having a good time. If you're interested, give Rick Mascaro an email at Rick Mascaro, RICKMSCARO @gmail.com. Or if you know anybody that's involved with the Lakeshore Center for the Arts over there in Westfield, let them know. They're going to try to make rehearsals easy, and he's hoping that since many of these acts are separate and they're not contiguous with each other, in other words, one doesn't depend on the other, he can set up schedules and rehearsals at any time. This is an excellent opportunity to get your feet wet if you have not performed in public before. And he says, we will begin the journey in the not-too-distant future, and he hopes to hear from you. I've worked with Rick Mascaro. He's a pro. He's lots of fun. And if you do have a certain yen for entertaining or performing, this could be it. This could be a nice, controlled setting where you can try out some of your skills, something maybe you did in college or early on in your life. And lots of fun. People there are great. And the theater they have there is just spectacular up there in the Presbyterian Church on the second floor. Okay, moving along here, I believe this is in Jamestown. Free Made parenting classes are being offered. It says here, build a strong foundation for your children. Your child's first years are so important. Learn how to make the most of them with active parenting. First 5 years, so it's called Active Parenting, First 5 years. In this program, you'll learn the best ways to nurture your child from birth to pre-K with just the right combination of freedom and nonviolent discipline. Give your kids a strong start. And this is what you'll learn. What a baby's cry means. So many times we hear the babies cry and we think, they're in pain or whatever. That's how they talk. That's how they let us know what's going on. Ages and stages of development will be covered. Building a strong bond. Your child's growing brain. Using mindfulness to keep your cool. That's tough at 3 in the morning. Effective discipline with young children that they understand. Choices and consequences, 6 ways to prepare your child for school success, and much, much more. They are 4 2-hour sessions, and this is part of a parenting group, and they'll be held at the Mental Health Association, 31 Water Street, at the Gateway Center in Jamestown, and they're going to be held on May 2nd, 9th, 16th, and 23rd, and this runs from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. The project is offered free of charge through a partnership through Chautauqua Alcoholism and Substance Abuse and Mental Health. All right, and the thing that you want to keep in mind is that this is great programming, free of charge, and that a lot of times, we often say when we were in school, they didn't teach us how to be a parent. And so this is an opportunity for those of you that maybe are a little bit shy on your parenting skills, or you're going to be having a baby soon, might check it out. The number there is 664-3661. I had to look that up since it wasn't part of that announcement, but I did have it in a former announcement. Okay, then we have a couple more things to share with you. We have, the Shred It event, which is going back to Westfield. This is where you bring all your secret documents that you want to shred before some FBI agent comes running into your house, I guess. No, this is old documents you might have that you don't need anymore, but you don't want to just throw out in the garbage because people sometimes worry about that. So Shred It Fest is going to be May 5th, and they are going to hold it at the Westfield Memorial Hospital from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and this is going to benefit the Westfield Mayville Hospital Auxiliary. Did I say Westfield Mayville? Excuse me. That's on my next announcement. The Westfield Memorial Hospital Auxiliary. Oh, bad on me. It's $10 a container. You go there and you fill up these containers. They have like bins, and then they dump it in this machine and shreds it into what looks like streamers and things like that. And we did this a few years ago with our Rotary Club, and it was a very successful thing. So this is going to help the auxiliary, which in turn helps the hospital, and they do great work. So May 5th, Shred It event. While we're on the hospital, I want to say congratulations, and I couldn't be happier for the Westfield Memorial Hospital staff and crew over there. They had a special ribbon cutting ceremony on Tuesday, and all the dignitaries were there. And they opened their brand new, totally renovated emergency department. And many of you may have seen signs up and around the communities that said RED, R-E-D, renovated emergency department. And they spent a lot of money doing this, and it's fantastic. So if you ever have need of those services, emergency department, you're going to be in good hands, and it's a great facility now. I have an announcement from my hometown, from Ripley. Bonnie Meter, a community member, presented to the town board the other day that they are going to put together Third Friday events. A lot of places have First Friday. This is going to be Third Friday events in the town of Ripley. And she and her group want people to know that if you have some things to sell, if you are an artisan, you want to do presentations or whatever, share information, have a table, you're going to charge $5, and they're going to do this on May 18th, the 15th of June, July 20th, August 17th, and September 14th from 5 to 8 each of those Fridays. And if you're interested, give Bonnie a call at 753-0610, or you can email her at bonbonmeter, bonbonmeeder, bonbonmeter at gmail.com. Okay, and we're very excited. This sounds like a fun thing to do for the community, and they're excited as well. So if you're interested, give Bonnie Meter a call. Okay, and then this one is mark your calendar date of May 19th. The Westfield Mayville Rotary is having their annual auction at Easton Hall on May 19th, and starting around 5 o'clock. They have a chicken barbecue dinner. The tickets are $12. So I'm letting you know now because you can get your tickets ahead of time and start planning for that event. It's always a lot of fun. We have a few hundred people come out, and all the proceeds, of course, go right back into our community and various Rotary projects. Okay, so once again, if you have an announcement or anything you want to share, please don't hesitate to let us know. Okay, I'm awaiting our caller to call in, and I'm just going to check with the engineering booth. Did we have our caller yet? Okay, so anyways, we'll spend a little bit more time here discussing things. Over the past 199 shows, I think we have covered most of the segments of Chautauqua County, whether it was music, literary, politics, local politics. You know that I don't get into politics at the national level, federal level. It's just, I just feel like if they can't get it right on the big networks, all right, if they can't do it right on the national scene, I'm certainly not going to get it right here in Mayville. So we keep local to talk about the things that we do and see here in Chautauqua County. But I've been very blessed to have your support and the support of our underwriters that you saw in the beginning of the show. Okay, I just got word that my very, very special friend and guest is online, and I want to welcome to our 200th show on Chautauqua Sunrise, New York State Senator Catherine Young. Good morning, Cathy.
Good morning. Congratulations.
Amazing, isn't it?
It really is. It's incredible. What a milestone.
You don't really think about it too much, but when you think about 200 shows, that's just about 4 years. So, you've been with our station for years and years and years now, and we thank you so much for your support and in keeping us moving here. And I know that you've been on the show with me a number of times, and we really appreciate that.
Well, thanks, Doc. And, you do a great service for the community, not only in giving out information and having very interesting guests on the show, but also because you are giving seniors information, and I think that is crucially important. You've carried on the legacy of the show, and so we're just so pleased that you continue to do this, because I think it's a great and a very valuable service.
Well, thank you. And I don't know, Kathy, I know you're on the phone right now, but they picked a great picture of you that they've superimposed right next to me. We're like simulcast here. And so it's a different picture. It's a picture with you in a kind of sporty looking outfit. Looks like you've been outdoors, and so you look marvelous.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you.
Well, Cathy, thanks for working hard with me to be on the show today. We had to do a little bit of gymnastics to work this all out, but your staff was super to work with, and thank you again.
Well, that's great. And I saw you the other day. That was great at the hospital, at Westfield Memorial Hospital, the event there.
Right. I just mentioned that I was congratulating them. Wasn't that spectacular there? I mean, the whole ER it's like something you see on TV now.
It is. And, you know, the fact that the community got together and raised all that money, over $600,000
Yeah.
For a small community, is really, really a fantastic accomplishment. And, you know, Rose Van Valkenburg and Patty DePalma did an excellent job. They were in charge of it, but we know that our local friend Helen Barron is always a go-getter.
Right.
And she's fantastic. You know, I've known her for years,
Yeah.
but a few years ago, we realized, and I didn't realize it until my dad told me. He asked me one day, his appendix burst, and he was in the hospital, and I was sitting with him, and he said, "Do you know Steve and Helen Barron?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And come to find out, he and Steve, my dad and Steve, had been fraternity brothers at Cornell University a long time ago.
That's amazing.
And so they've been friends with my parents who live in Livingston County,
Wow.
and I never knew it. So it's a great thing.
You know, we talk about this all the time. Living down here, everybody knows everybody eventually, and it's such interesting ties that we have with each other. And of course, you know Helen, and I know Helen through so many different organizations. And I'm the vice chair of the hospital, and she's the chair. And we spend you know, quite a bit of time talking about things in the meetings and things like that. Just a powerhouse. And I mean, when you talk about passion, she could be in the dictionary right next to it, the word. You know, she's very passionate.
Yes, she is, and you do a great job too, Doc. And
Well.
you know, I was glad that the state also stepped up and did $153,000 rural hospital grant for the project too. So I think everybody working together can get things done. And I know you and I spoke that day about the fact that we almost lost our hospital.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, we often say, what would happen, just, you know, project it out if you could, if the hospital wasn't there, and people will die if that hospital is not there. And,
That's right.
And it's a scary thought that even to consider that they would be so, what's the word I want to say, ignorant of the fact of what we need way over on the other side of the world, it seems like, and how they even came up with that idea to close the hospital was just beyond me.
I know, it was a bunch of bureaucrats who really didn't understand the community, the topography, the distance, all those factors. And I just remember being in Ripley and Westfield and railing for the hospital and being in those meetings in Albany with the Department of Health and the governor's office. And, you know, at the end of the day, the good guys won. And now you see how well the hospital is doing with the new emergency department and some of the other upgrades that you've made. So my hat is off to you, Doc.
Right. Well, it certainly is a great team effort. And now that they're associated with the Allegheny Health Network out of Pittsburgh, including St. Vincent's, I mean, it's just a great relationship. And I met with the COO from Allegheny Health Network the other day, Jim Benedict, Chris Clark, who's the president of St. Vincent's. I mean, it's hard to believe that you can be on a first-name basis and in our community nowadays with large corporate individuals, and they are just so down to earth and easy to work with, and they get it. They understand what we just talked about, you know, the importance of Westfield Memorial Hospital. So that's great. And Cathy, you've been stellar in your support, and we obviously thank you as well.
Well, it's important. You know, access to quality health care in rural areas is crucial, and not everybody always understands that, but it's all, you know, I'm just really glad that things are working out. And, you know, we've been looking to save all of our hospitals across Chautauqua County. I mean, we're lucky in that we have had 4 hospitals, but it's because Chautauqua County is such a wide land area, number one, and we're rural. And so if you have to get to the emergency room in the middle of the night because you're having a heart attack in January, you need to have access close by, and that's really what it's all about. So on the state level, I've been working on a lot of legislation, telehealth, for example, to actually improve access, but also improve the quality of service. And, you know, our local hospitals do a great job, but through telehealth, you can actually link with some of the top experts in the world, medical experts, if there's some kind of issue or, you know, somebody has something unique going on. We know that we do a lot of that now with stroke patients, and there's a lot more that needs to be done. You know, one of the unaddressed areas, I think, or it's not addressed enough in New York State, has to do with mental health and mental health services.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, and so we need to have more access, and I actually have a bill that I want to get not only passed but signed into law, I hope, this year before session ends in June, but would extend telehealth to psychiatric services, because we know in rural areas it's almost impossible to have a psychiatrist and oftentimes a psychologist. So, and people do need help sometimes, and so I'm working on that right now.
Well, that's terrific. And, you know, if you could have somebody in a session where there's someone on the other end of a Skype or media that they can talk with, I mean, it's not that warm fuzzy in person, but it could be very powerful, I would think, that you could, you know, have somebody to talk with right then and there about issues. Cathy, I want to ask you a question. Do you have a radio or television on in the background by any chance?
Actually, I'm in an airport, and that's the problem. That was one of the challenges of today. So
okay, I just wanted to make sure, because I could.
Pretty noisy.
Well, it's not bad, but I just want to make sure that folks can hear you clearly, and you're coming in quite clear. But I heard something, and I go, what is that?
Yeah, no, that's an announcement, and now they're announcing another flight right now to Rochester.
No, cheapers. So what airport are you in?
I'm down in LaGuardia. I had to come yesterday for some meetings.
Okay.
Yeah, and so just trying to get back to the Buffalo airport so I can
get home.
Get back home. Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll just keep plugging along. One of the things that I mentioned to Kara, your scheduler and your staff member there, was that I was overwhelmed by your survey that you conducted. I got the results the other day, and I thought maybe we could chat a little bit about that if you like.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. I mean, this was an unprecedented participation rate that we had of people who answered the survey, and I think it shows how strongly people feel about some of the issues that I included on there. And on top of it, it's just a good way for people to have their voices heard. And, you know, oftentimes people feel like we're the furthest away from the Capitol, and I want to make sure that everyone has that ability to weigh in on issues. So that's why I do it, and I'm just really pleased with the response.
Well, according to what I read in your letter to me, my personal letter, I know that you specifically sent it to me, 13,000 people participated. Yes. I mean, I got to tell you, in my world of education, when you get like 50 return surveys, I mean, you're doing pretty well, but 13,000, that's outstanding. So could you tell us a little bit how that's all processed? I mean, obviously you're not sitting up at night counting. I mean, do you have like a company that does this for you? How's that work?
No, the Senate Central staff does it. So people submit their results to my office, and then we give it to Central staff, and they compile all the results. And so it's a lot of work, but I think it's worthwhile because we can give people feedback. It's not just that they can weigh in on issues to me, but I felt that it was very necessary to get back to people, to let them know what the results were and what their neighbors are thinking. And so it's I think it was very worthwhile, but luckily I didn't have to sit at a desk and do all that myself.
Well, but you know what? I was just talking before you came on, that's the mission of this show, is to share information so people know what's going on in their community. And the way this is laid out, the survey results, is just as you say. It tells other people, the other 12,999 people, that this is what everybody else was thinking, and that you know, either you're on the fringe or you're right in the middle or you're, you know, to the other side. And I just thought that was really, really a unique way of looking how you did it, and very appreciative of your efforts there. So
well, it's good. You know, I really care about what people think, and you know, Doc, I don't feel that I can represent people unless I know what's important to them. So, you know, I'm constantly out in communities and talking
Always.
and listening to people.
every time I turn around at some public event, there's Cathy. It's like, how'd you
It's
get
important
here?
that I listen to people's concerns, and we, you know, we have special concerns out in our area, and you know, and so it's important that I can take people's messages back to Albany, and that's what I really try to do.
Well, it captured it here. So, Cathy, you had a number of issues that you listed. Was there anything that in the survey, because I have a couple of things I was going to mention, but anything that popped out that surprised you, that people were thinking maybe in an area that you didn't think was going to be the result?
No, not really. I mean, you know, when I think about the survey, I think it was pretty much on the mark as to where people would be. I think the only one that that really popped out to me was the end of life question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was the one that was you know, interesting to me. But everything else was pretty much on target where I thought it would be.
Okay, let me read to the folks what the question was and then the results. How's that? It says, the question was, do you support allowing the terminally ill to request life-ending medication from a physician? And I even wrote on here, Cathy, surprise, 65% of the people supported that. 19%, only 19%, I think is a small number, said no, and 16% were undecided. 65%, I'll bet you if you did this survey 20 years ago, it would have been just the opposite.
Exactly. So, so that was a very interesting question, and there is, you know, all of these questions are based on actual legislation that has been introduced in the Assembly and or the Senate, and so it's good to get that type of feedback. I think, you know, there are a lot of activists out there that feel that, you know, and right now you can make someone comfortable if they're dying, and we should absolutely do that. There's no question about it. But some people feel like, on the other side, that it's a slippery slope, and if you start to allow people with assisted suicide, which actually that's what the bill is, it's assisted suicide, that, you know, you could have very bad consequences, you know, down the road. So that was surprising to me, but, you know, it's a tough issue.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, without going into great depth on it, because there's other things I'd like to talk with you about, but, you know, when we see the end-of-life care and you start to think about these people saying, I don't really want to be here any longer, and they're sitting either in a vegetative state or they're in such pain, and then the very cold, callous side of it is that the medical cost is just going through the roof for something that they don't want. It kind of makes sense that people are starting to feel this way now.
Right. So,
you know,
so we'll have some more debate and discussion on that particular bill, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely, and I'll be curious to hear the results. The one that really stood out to me, Cathy, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought you were supporting this. Where did it go? I'll find it here in a second. It was about the idea that the Assembly proposal that, it was about how do you feel about the Assembly proposal that would establish state-funded supervised heroin injection sites for addicts as a way of reducing the number of overdoses and deaths because of that. And I thought that you all were supporting this to some degree. Am I?
No,
not at all.
No.
Okay, no.
I came out. There actually was a bill by Assemblywoman Linda Rosenthal about a year and a half ago. I think maybe a couple years ago now. All the time seems to run together sometimes.
Yeah.
But she put it in, and I immediately put out a statement against it because I just think it exacerbates the problem. And you know, there are some people, especially in urban areas, that think it's a good idea, but I just think it's a bad idea because it almost like legitimizes it. And you know, why should the taxpayers have to pay for something like that? I would rather, instead of enabling somebody's addiction, I think it's much better to invest money to people so that people can go through treatment and recovery.
Was that what you
And-
proposed at one point, was the treatment recovery centers?
Right,
Okay,
right. And so-
that's what I was referring to, I guess. Okay, so this is
Yeah.
totally different bill and concept. I didn't know what the treatment center would do. Okay,
Right. So these are injection sites.
Okay.
They would be paid for by taxpayers. I just think it's the wrong way to go. And we actually have invested record amounts of money into the opioid and heroin crisis. And so last year we had over $220 million allocated to go toward prevention, education, treatment, recovery, and actually the law enforcement piece, which you have to get these big-time dealers off the street because they're profiting from dealing in death. And so we did that last year. We just passed the budget again this year, and we have over $227 million allocated this year. But there's a crisis in our communities all across the state because we see this exploding problem, and it's people of all ages, people from all kinds of backgrounds, people of both genders, and it's something that needs to be addressed. And when I was younger, if you injected heroin, you were a loser with a capital L, right?
Right.
At least in our region. But now it's those boundaries are down, and people are getting hooked. And so we've got to do everything that we can because I think a lot of the stigma over the years has gone away because we didn't have a problem with heroin. Now we do. And part of the problem also was the overprescribing of prescription drugs, opioids, for pain.
for sure, yeah.
And a lot of people got hooked. And we cracked down on the opioid black market with the pills. And because there was a lot of fraud going on, people were doing things like stealing physicians' prescription pads and forging things, or doctor shopping and saying, you know, my back really hurts, when you go to 10 different doctors and get 10 doctors to actually prescribe the medication,
Right.
and then you sell it on the black market. So
Yep.
all of those things were happening. We cracked down, but as a result, we've seen a spike in heroin, so we've got to address it.
Okay, and so thank you for clarifying that, because I remember you had proposed something that had to do with this, but I don't know why I was under the impression the injection site was a treatment site, so thank you for clarifying that. And just for our viewers and listeners, 69% of the people agree with you. 15% said yes, and 17% were undecided on that survey. But isn't it sad that the fact that we have, you just said $227 million are being invested for this problem? That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. It is. It absolutely is. But it really is a crisis. And frankly, it's, you know, I'd like to do more money if we could, because I just think that, you know, I hear it all the time. And last year it really struck me. I was at one of my high schools to meet with a football team, and one of the kids said to me, and it was just so matter of fact, Doc, he said, well, another one died last week, meaning another heroin overdose at the school.
Yeah.
And it was just like it was becoming, and you as an educator know this, but it was becoming so routine to have somebody overdose and die. And our emergency rooms are filled with people that are getting Narcan because they're overdosing. And what we also find is that in the emergency rooms, a lot of medical personnel are at risk because oftentimes people don't want their high to go away, and they act out violently if you bring them back. And
Right.
so it's just a terrible problem. It needs to be addressed. We need to be very strong about tackling it, and that's something that we're doing through the state budget.
And one of the sad things, very often I'll see folks that have passed away from the overdoses, that in their obituary, the family puts, died from a opioid overdose. I mean, they're trying to tell their story. And I know I don't want to just say that it's only this age group, because obviously it's getting down into the high school level, which is extremely sad. But the ones I've been seeing out this way in the papers are folks that are like in their mid-20s. And,
Right.
and that just puzzles me. I don't know why it's that group, but it seems almost every time when someone will say somebody had an overdose, I say, stop, don't tell me their age. Is it between this age and this age? And go, yeah, how'd you know? Because it seems to be that's where the epidemic is right now. So
Yeah, it's really just very tragic. And
yeah. So if we could move on to another, one of your items was all about taxes in the economy. Cathy, I got to tell you, having been a school board member, superintendent, I've been a councilman, I've been a fire commissioner, I'm on the library board now. If you had told me 10 years ago that you all were going to cap us all at 2% growth, with some emergency legislation, you could override that. But if we would all hold our budgets to 2%, I would have told you that's crazy, that we would fold up our tents and close shop, and yet it's working.
It's working.
It's working.
It's working, yeah.
Why is it working? And make me a believer here. Tell me what I missed 10 years ago.
Well, it's working for a lot of reasons, but number one is that we needed to put the brakes on runaway property tax hikes.
Yeah.
That's one of the largest problems that we face as a state, and we've had an exodus of people because the property taxes are too high, and we've lost jobs as a result of it too. So we had to do something. We capped the property taxes. It actually has saved taxpayers billions of dollars, and at the same time, we have increased school aid. So I know you're always concerned about making sure that our children have the best
Absolutely.
learning opportunities, and I am too. And we've been putting in record amounts of school aid every single year. So it's and at the same time too, we're helping local government because we give a lot of money to road and bridge funding, and that's one of the big. You would know that, but that's one of the big expenses that local governments has is keeping up miles, especially in rural areas, miles and miles and miles of
forever.
roadways.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we've been able to, and it's been our Senate Republican conference that has led the charge on those issues. But we feel very strongly that we need to give property taxpayers relief, but at the same time we should allocate the resources that are necessary to help our communities and help our schools.
Part of your survey, you said that you saved taxpayers over the years now $41 billion in over 6 consecutive state budgets because of this. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. And just think about how heavy the tax burden would be. And one of the things that we did this year, too, as a conference, the Senate Republican Conference, came out very strongly against Governor Cuomo's proposed $1 billion in tax hikes. When he released his budget proposal in January, he had $1 billion that he wanted to raise on people. And, people are suffocating under the heavy tax burden. I know you hear it every single day. I hear it every single day. We need to turn that around and make New York State a more affordable place to live and work and do business and retire. And so we said no very strongly during the process, and I'm very pleased to report that we actually stopped all of these tax hikes that the governor had proposed.
All right. And for the viewers and listeners, 85% of your folks that took the survey agreed with you. And like I said, I'm a believer now, so you got to throw me in the pot. I just thought, what, you people are crazy, because they originally I think it was for a year or two, and then it just kept on going, and it somehow it works. And and for those that are listening right now, they say, well, what happens if you got to go over your 2%? Well, there's a mechanism to do that, with a supermajority and voters and things like that. So you can do that. But nonetheless, I'm impressed. That was interesting. So now the budget's done for the year?
Yes.
Okay. And
We passed it early this year.
well, good for you. I remember some years ago that you guys were getting into late May and was driving all the superintendents crazy.
No, I know. Well, it was driving us crazy, too. But former Speaker Sheldon Silver used to negotiate by not negotiating on the budget. He would fold his arms and hold out, and it created a very frustrating experience, and it was frustrating for the people across the state. So we've been working to have on-time budgets for the past 6 years, and it's worked. And this year, because of the holidays, if you recall, Passover and Easter were right around April 1st, and the budget's due by March 31st, so we were able to get it done on time.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all my buddies that are superintendents. It makes the whole budgeting process so much easier when we know what to expect. Okay, moving right along, another very hot topic as far as I'm concerned is this whole immigration and homeland security. And if I could take a minute and just read what you had asked people, okay? It says here, the New York State Assembly has passed legislation that would designate New York as a sanctuary state. The measure would prohibit state and local police from cooperating with federal immigration authorities regarding the immigration status of most individuals who are arrested, detained, or report crimes, as well as those who apply for state or local services or benefits. This measure would also provide taxpayer-funded legal representation to immigrants facing deportation. And then there's other questions about whether or not these immigrants could get New York State citizenship and obtain state benefits, and also there was a question about free education on the taxpayer. What's the thinking behind the Assembly on this? Do you know?
They have gotten more and more radical over the years, I think. And so this is one of their radical proposals that they've passed over and over again. Mm-hmm. And it just, look, people, as I said earlier, are really suffering under a heavy burden of taxes, and they don't want their tax dollars to go toward, people that are here illegally. And so that's part of the equation, but the Assembly passes this, and also it's dangerous to have people here who are committing crimes and and local officials are not cooperating with law enforcement. Mm-hmm. And so we've got to make sure that those particular proposals don't make it through the Senate, because I think that they really make people outraged when they understand what the proposals actually are.
Okay, and sometimes I actually do homework before I do one of my shows, and I did a little bit of homework on this, and so I'm thinking to myself, are there other sanctuary states, and are we where are sanctuary cities and that? So if I got this right, we actually have counties in New York State are considered sanctuary counties, and it's Albany, Franklin, Ithaca, Nassau, New York City unto itself, Onondaga, St. Lawrence, and Wayne. So what does that mean? What is a sanctuary county?
Well, that they've been able to pass local laws that say that they are sanctuary counties, and I vehemently disagree with it. And so it's a problem. It seems to be spreading, but I think that we have to have the right policies in place and make sure that we are doing the right things regarding law enforcement, protecting people, keeping people safe, wise use of tax dollars. All of those issues really play into this. It's not clear from the federal standpoint about what might happen with these sanctuary counties, but I think that they jeopardize their aid from the federal government. But, I forget what the percentage was that agreed with me on that issue, but I think it was pretty high.
Well, the group that talked or weighed in on the sanctuary state, 78% of the people agreed with you. The idea of giving illegal immigrants the right to vote, run for office, and apply for citizenship and so forth, and state benefits, 89% of people agreed with you. And 81% of the folks agreed that high school students in New York that are undocumented high school students should not get state-funded free college tuition. 81%. Right. So I think you're in pretty firm ground there. But
well, people work very hard to send their own kids to college, and when I talk to them, it's like, are you kidding me? My taxes are so high, and I'm paying for somebody here illegally when I can't afford to send my own kids to school. It really is. It's a question of fairness, and people want to be treated fairly, always.
Well, I was sort of surprised. I guess I wasn't aware of what the Assembly's bill was on that. And I'm a pretty liberal guy. I'm not a way to the one side, but I'm like middle liberal. And when I saw about giving them tax-free college tuition and other benefits, I'm going like, whoa, wait a minute here. I think about our budgets that we deal with here locally, and I can't imagine how that would read for a whole state and so on. And wow, that was pretty strange for me personally. Just to point out that there are actual sanctuary states. We hear about California all the time, but I also found that Colorado, Illinois, New Mexico, Oregon, and Vermont, they're all sanctuary states. So this must be playing pretty weird with the feds and the states and the counties, and New York City is a sanctuary city as well, right?
Yes, they have been for a long time.
So this must make for a very interesting mix with law enforcement and how that all goes together. So,
It really does.
so,
It really does.
is there any proposal in the Senate as far as dealing with immigration? Here in New York State.
Yes, we have passed some legislation regarding those issues, and so we've been trying to tackle it from the other side and say that that you can't be a sanctuary state because it's so we're working on that. Another thing that's really emerged that is a big problem that we're trying to deal with has to do with gang activity.
Oh yeah,
and,
sure.
Yeah, and there's it's probably the most vicious gang. It's MS-13, and a lot of the members of that gang are here illegally, and it's kind of centered in Long Island, especially Suffolk County, but it's spreading. It's spreading to Nassau, it's spread to New York City, it's spreading across the state, and we really have to tackle a lot of the gang violence because, they're just notorious cases. Kids walking home from school, a 15-year-old girl viciously murdered just because the gang members wanted to do it. There was no real motive other than they thought I guess it would be fun. I mean, those kinds of cases are emerging every day, and we have to do something about it. And I think if you're a sanctuary state on top of it, it really complicates things.
Yeah. Now, this MS-13, that group, I thought came in from South America?
Central America.
Central America, okay.
Yeah. In 2000, I was nominated by Governor Pataki to go on a goodwill mission to Nicaragua and El Salvador. And they basically are Central American people that have come over the border. And a lot of them came through when President Obama had the young people being able to come over the border just like a couple years ago. But there was no screening for gangs or gang violence or anything like that. And now their population has exploded. But it's becoming a major problem where there's a lot of increasing crime, violence, that sort of thing, and we have to tackle it. But I just remember when I was there, those are countries that deal with horrible problems with poverty and, joblessness and a lot of hopelessness. And I think people have turned to gangs and they want to come to the United States. And so, it's a very complex problem.
Certainly. And, we all have a soft spot for people that really need help. But again, as I think you're alluding to, you got to have a way to filter all that and have a process, I assume.
Right.
Okay. Well, so again, you're on strong ground with the 13,000 people that responded. There were other ones that you asked about, recreational marijuana. Once again, even though 55% of the people agreed with, well, I don't know where your position is, but 55% said no on recreational marijuana, but 34% did say yes. So that's like a third of the folks that responded. I was kind of surprised by that number.
I was too, actually. And, we actually voted a couple of years ago to legalize medicinal marijuana. Because I think if somebody's suffering, that if they can get some relief through that, especially if you're, dying from cancer or something like that, I think that, again, that end-of-life issues are key to making sure that people are comfortable. But it's, recreational marijuana is something that I would oppose just because I think we already have a problem with people showing up to work, drunk or on the roadways drunk. And I think that making it recreational marijuana legal actually could exacerbate some of the problems that already exist.
As a state representative, how do you put in your mind the other states that have legalized it, and eventually, do you think New York State will be surrounded? I mean,
well, yes, they very well could be, and so we'll have to continue to look at that. But it's I just think with the drug problems that we already have, and, people sometimes kind of scoff. They'll say, marijuana is not a gateway drug. But every forum that we've held across the state, parents come in or actual users come in, and physicians have come in, drug treatment professionals have come in, and they said oftentimes things start with using or abusing marijuana. So I listen to the people that are experts, people who have experienced it firsthand. I think it's important to pay attention to what they're saying, and so that's one of the other concerns I have about it.
Right, and I have to admit I'm torn on the issue in my mind as far as I know people that feel that marijuana would be right in the same category as using alcohol, and then if it's controlled and they use it appropriately, everything's fine. But on the other hand, like yourself, I've talked with the professionals. I've dealt with people that have used drugs in a variety of things. I'm a musician, and I grew up in the marijuana culture back in the 60s, so I understand what it's all about. And to me, it is a gateway drug for many people, but not all people. And so this is a sticky wicket. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we just hold the fort until things change. I find it interesting that you were talking about harassment, sexual harassment, and asking if the state should do more, and 54% of the folks say, yeah, we need to do more. So what more can the state do?
Well, actually, we just passed a major package of legislation in the state budget that deals with sexual harassment, and I had authored a bill back in January, actually December, I think I put it in, but we've had a problem in state government with sexual harassment, but we also have had a lot of problems across society. I mean, it all kind of started last October with Harvey Weinstein and all the revelations about all of the people that he, abused terribly, and then it started to mushroom out of there, where more people were coming forward and saying that it happened to themselves, and so it started the whole Me Too movement, and so it's a very topical area right now. But one of the things that concerned me was when I started to look into it, there was no definition of sexual harassment in state law existing anywhere, and oftentimes by default, judges would use the EEOC, the federal definition of sexual harassment, but oftentimes it muddied up if there were court cases that were brought forward. So my bill would actually, it actually did put a definition of sexual harassment into state law, but it was much more than that. A lot of these people that were abused by Harvey Weinstein were actresses, and they were classified legally as independent contractors, which meant that they didn't have the same protection in law that regular employees have.
That's bizarre.
It is, but and about 40% of the workforce now are independent contractors. I think millennials like to be independent contractors and kind of be able to write their own destiny, or not have to work directly for a company, but be able to have more freedom in where they choose to work. But it's everyday people that are affected by this. So, for example, if you're a realtor or you're a hairstylist and you're subjected to sexual harassment, you didn't have any protection. So, for example, say you were working in a salon, the salon owner was sexually abusing or sexually harassing you, really didn't have a lot of recourse because you're an independent contractor. And if the person is saying, you know what, if you don't do this or that, and you're gonna lose your booth at my business, there wasn't a lot that somebody could do. So we need to make sure that every New Yorker is protected, and that's what the legislation did.
Well, Cathy, as always, thank you for looking out for everybody. We're down to like the last 45 seconds of the show. How did we do that so fast? You and I could talk forever, I think. But
yeah, I think so.
I do want to thank you for being my special 200th guest. And you got the last half minute. Anything you want to share with the viewers and listeners?
Well, I just want to say thank you to you again, because I know that you work hard to make sure that the show is successful, and it certainly has been. And so I just want to say to you, congratulations again, and good luck with everything, and keep going, Doc, okay?
Okay, thank you, Cathy. And hopefully we can get you on in person next time, because I do enjoy your company and listening to you. And thanks for explaining these various proposals and your positions on it. And this survey was really great. So please be safe in your travels and get home soon before the ice comes in. All right, we'll talk to you soon, Cathy. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Take care, Doc.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Okay, folks, that's our 200th show, and it's a wrap, and we're going to see you in May. And right now I got to get ready for my live show. So take care, and we'll see you real soon. The flowers should be blooming by now, and I'll be back soon. Bye-bye.